Righto, so let's get into it. So yeah, thanks for coming along today. It's such a big turnout. This week I was going to sort of touch on the basics of rendering, and I've had to sort of get a few questions regularly about, how do we make them look smarter and tidier and lighter and things like that. I'm by no means a rendering expert, but sort of know the basics to get a simple render out. And also, ArchiCAD is probably not the greatest rendering engine out there, but if it's all you've got to work with at the time, it's as good as anything. But for real functionality, best to export to something else and then do it in that. But we can cover some of those options another time. So basically, we want to start off with our building or whatever we're going to be looking at. We can use our camera tool to set up some rendering spots, some locations that we want to see views from, and that can also then be taken on to use for like animations and stuff like that, but even just simply as a rendering viewpoint. So we can choose our camera, tell what sort of heights we want to set it up at, our target height, how far away the viewpoint is and things like that, how strong sunlight and things are like that. Also, we can sort of set it up, as a certain date. So if you're trying to show someone what it's like in the middle of winter or the middle of summer so that they know the contrast, we can set some dates and times in here, and then apply. Just leave it at that for now. Oh no, I'll leave that. So we can chuck our camera in there. And so that's sort of set the sun up based on the settings that are in this project, which I'm not even sure what they are, but so we will now have a view from our camera. So over here we've got camera 1 in place. So that was my camera 1 setting. So now we've got our view location. What we might do now is actually update that. We've got the view set up. We're going to look. Now, the thing that you want to remember is that the lighting just in ArchiCAD itself, if you just now render this using the the rendering object, wherever it is, where we gone now. Rendering gone, creative imaging, we're right there. So if we were just to photo render that now, the light and everything would be probably as just the sun object, and would be probably pretty miserable in a lot of places, and things would get dark and black and stuff like that. So we want to add some extra light and stuff to the setting. Maybe we also want to add a background to that setting. So the early setup is to come into the creative imaging here, and we'll go into our photo rendering settings. And we can actually choose a preset scene. So we've got some indoor daylight scenes here. And we can choose whether we want to make it like a cine render rendering, which is like the high end of the ArchiCAD rendering options, or a basic render, which is just the standard old ArchiCAD rendering engine, and a sketch render. So is anyone familiar with the sketch rendering settings? Okay, so if you don't want to show a project like it's at a stage where you're sort of like you don't have enough detail, say in finishes and that, but you want to show the client, say, the shapes and the look, but you don't have to like then render it with all of the colors and stuff. You can use some sketch rendering settings to just show them like almost a hand-drawn image. So you can actually choose sketch rendering, and where has it gone now? There's a number of different styles. So like some of them are like watercolor styles and like marker pen styles and stuff like that. I've changed the settings from the version I'm familiar with, but Tech Pencil might be one. And then if we were to just render that, hold on, we'll just leave. If we just render that now, and you can just sort of see what happens. Hopefully it won't take too long. The problem with ArchiCAD rendering is it does take a while, so it's sort of that. Okay, so that's that was that Tech Pencil option there. So you can actually experiment with these and go. And they used to have a really good one called Koh-i-Noor, and it was like it just came out as the lines with a wee bit of overlap, but they've taken it out for some reason or changed its name, and I've not.
Is there something in the sketch line settings?
Yeah, you can actually then go into all those and customize the settings of the lines and some colors and stuff like that as well. So it's one of those things that's sketch line settings. So you can go in there and do various modifications to find a style that suits you as well. So that's sketch rendering. Just going to see that one here. No, that'll be dark. What's the default? Oh no, I need to find that. Yeah, so that's, if you want to just a basic sketch of shapes and masses and things like that. If we want to go then to rendering, we can use so if we start with the basic renderer, these things in here, the effects, these are like how good the image is going to be. So it's like, and these also then sort of trade off with the time it takes to render. So obviously, the better you set these anti-aliasing and the method, it's going to take longer to generate the image. If you maybe just want a really quick and dirty image to just check something, you can bring the anti-aliasing and that back. You can also turn off some of these effects, like transparency will then make anything that is transparent, like glass, actually see through. So if you turn that off, you're not going to see through the window. So if it's not important to see inside the building, you can turn that off, which then also saves time and processing. You can turn the textures on or off, so that means that it'll render up with the textures that you've got in ArchiCAD. You can turn shadow casting on or off, and also how accurate it is. So again, you turn that on, you're adding processing time, and you can actually add in either the sun as a light source or some lamps. Now lamps are light sources that we'll add in a minute. So it really depends on what sort of image that you're trying to produce and why is what you sort of turn on and off here. The background, you can actually stick something in the background, so you can actually just have color if you wanted. So if you just wanted a pale blue background or whatever. You can just put a color, or you can put an image. And there are a number of standard images in the ArchiCAD library itself, reasonably limited, but so various options of cloudy skies. I think somewhere down here, is it the same one? There are some with some trees and stuff in the background. Yeah, moody sky. So you can sort of set those up, or you can import your own image and save that somewhere and put that in. So if you want to try to, view the building in its location, you can bang it in here and make it look pretty good. So now, if we were just to render that, hopefully it won't take long at all. So that was the basic rendering engine on our basic model. So as you see, the windows we can't see in, things like that. If we went to Cine Render and just chose, say, an outdoor scene, it'll take a wee bit longer. So you sort of notice the difference in quality of the image there. So that's your Cine Render. Now this is all right. I mean, that wasn't too bad. So if you're just rendering like a building without too much furniture and stuff like that, these are probably still all right. It's when you start getting like lots of chairs and furniture and stuff with lots of polygons in it that it really then starts tuning into the processing time. So again, if it's just a building and it's some standard simple shapes, you're probably fine doing some renders in ArchiCAD. If it gets more complex than that, well, then we'll jump onto the others at another time. Things to keep in mind are lighting, because that actually hasn't turned out too bad, but quite often if you've got a complicated shape, you'll find that as the building goes in, say, an L shape or a U shape, whatever, it can block the light out, and when it creates a shadow, it tends to make it quite dark. So sometimes you want to throw in some extra light. So it's always a good start. So here's our lamp tool here to go here, and these are just general light sources. So first one to start off with is the sun object. So grab that, work out how strong you want to make it. Usually add a wee bit of color to it, or you can just choose an inbuilt setting. So maybe we'll go for daylight. So it's given it sort of a yellow tinge there. So whereas in the morning it's more orange. And just sunlight, say blue. So if we put that in place now, set some position menu. So basically what it's going to do now is set that sun in relation to the sun setting of this file. So it'll be the city location and the day and time that this image is set up for. So we can then just go OK. Oh, I should find a layer for it. We've got a layer. Oh, there's nothing set up here, so we'll just leave it on interior lamp for now, and then just go OK. And it doesn't really matter where we put that because it's sort of located high above everything, so it'll come and provide us enough light. And then also we want to produce or add like an under sun object. So what this is it's like a sun, but it's 90 degrees below the sun. Well, it's vertically below the building, and its whole purpose is to sort of try and lighten up the undersides of surfaces that are not getting any light. Otherwise, they're the ones that get really dark. So we just basically use the same object, and we can set its sun position manually, and we'll set its altitude, that's the right one, at -90. Where's the minus on this keyboard there? You can just leave it as sunlight. We can tone its intensity down a wee bit and turn off shadow casting, because this is just a light source to highlight the darkness of the model. And then just go OK and bang that under there. And that image wasn't too bad, was it? So maybe, you know, if it was a bit dark around here, we might want some sort of like local light on that area just to, again, lift the shadows. So you could come into back into our light sources and choose something like the window light. Again, we would just maybe tone the intensity down a wee bit. And turn the shadow casting off. And okay, so we'll just place that over here. So we want that, we might just see how big that is.
Is it okay to use this kind of light inside?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Either outside or inside.
Like a sun.
No, and once you turn the shadows off, it's not going to cast anything strange. Just remember to turn it off. And like you can get in here and do all sorts of technical stuff, you know, as you know more and more. But really, to start, if you just use the basics and get the things in there, and then as you move along, start fiddling with the back end and more powerful stuff. So now I've got a sun, an undersun, and like a highlight light there. So if I come back to my 3D view, what is that? Put a height in it. 100 meters. Just get rid of them. Yeah, so put a bit of height in your sun. So now, if we go back to our photo rendering, we can go into our photo rendering settings. And now, lights. So we're using 100% of our sun power. We can also then use the power of our lighting as well to enhance the image, the model. You can also use the diffused light off the materials as well. So, you know, when you go in and set up materials and it asks all the light qualities and stuff, well, that's what contributes to this figure here. So sometimes why you get like an image where it has a lot of burnout in the color, because it's the light intensity so high. So if we go now, okay. it's a bit hard to tell what the difference is, but because it was reasonably well lit. But yeah, so you need, like, those window lights are things that you would add.
Was one of the signs under the building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's to lighten up the suffix and stuff like that. That the light's not falling down on.
Yeah.
So these ones here, these window lights and stuff, you'll then replace those just strategically around the building as you go in and find out that, that it's a bit dark. I just need to lighten it up more. So just, copy, like, you just copy them around and put them at different angles as you need them to enhance the surfaces and stuff like that. One other thing that you can use the white effect model as well. So you don't want to show we haven't spent enough time maybe with textures and materials, so you don't want to distract the client with that sort of thing. So you can just use the white model effect as well, and it'll just produce a model of architectural beauty. And then you can sort of play around with, how that looks as well. And so now, once you've sort of created your image and you want to be able to come back to it later on without going through the whole process of setting it all up again, we can then save our views in there. So, like, choose a folder. Choose a folder. It doesn't have to be the 3D view one, which is not there anyway at the moment. But so if we were to go create a new folder. Create a new folder. So views. So we've created our new folder to save them in. And so now, we want to save this one here. It's just a case of, like any other view, is right click, save current view. If you've got this all set up as you want, or this will generally be all right anyway. So the thing that you want to think about here, or worry about here, is come down to here and this generate in box. Now, if you want to be able to call up a photo rendering, or be able to use that rendering, say, in a drawing sheet, you click here and choose photo rendering window. You can set up any of these as you want. You can set your rendering scene as well, and your size, and create. So we'll actually just create it in the meantime. But so now, when you go to that so when you go to this view set here and click on your generic perspective, which I didn't name it very well, it will automatically take you back to that view that you saved as, and bang, take you into the rendering settings that you've got set up for that particular view. Now, if you change these creative imaging settings at any stage, that's not going to affect that view. So you can have, white model views, you can have full color views, you can have sketch renders, just as long as it's set up correctly as when you save the view. And then if you do want to change the effect of that view later on, so you can still so at the moment we've generated that view as a photo rendering. So if we want to now say change it to sketch render, if we go backwards that way, we can then save over it and it will just resave those settings. So if now we wanted to actually resave it, we could get view settings, and it has saved. Yeah, there you go, engine sketch. Generate in photo rendering window, and OK. So now that will replace that photo rendered view. And then everything else from there, like now that you've got these view set up, you can now just take that view like you do a plan or whatever and place it on a sheet or print it out however you want. So you can have, you know, as many views in here set up as you want. So yeah, that's the basics of 3D rendering and things to think about while you're in there. Hope that was useful. So any questions?
Say you did have a 3D view in a sheet